There we go. Okay.
Oh, really?
I've lost somebody here. Participants, it went from 13 to 12. Okay, we'll wait just another couple of minutes, and then somebody asked me at the last minute to join, and I sent her an invite. I don't see her on here yet, I don't think. Okay. The good thing with watching it on YouTube is that you can fast forward through it with the little slide bar if you've ever watched. So you don't have to listen to all of it if you just missed a part or wanted to look at the slides. You can just kind of fast forward through it without having to listen to all the chatter. But it's got questions from people, so that's always helpful.
Definitely.
Okay. I'm just going to check my email to see if Sandra sent me the slides. No.
Ooh, it's Laura Cowan. I can't find any chat boxes or anything here.
Any chat boxes? Oh,
yeah, to type stuff in for you.
So if you go down to the bottom, oh, let's see. Okay. If you go down to the bottom, do you have a little menu that pops up, a little window bar?
No, actually I don't. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
and there's either a bubble or there's on the very left, you'll pull up a more with more window.
Okay, I'll go looking, not to worry.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I can't always, if I'm talking, it's so hard for me to look at the chat sometimes. So, and Claire can't join us today because she has a client that she's working with. So it's just me all by myself, muddling through. Okay. All right, well, let's get started. It's 5 after 1. So thanks everybody for putting some time aside to spend with me this afternoon. Oh, we've got somebody else coming in.
That's you.
Okay, so now we have another person. So today's the second of a 4-part series, and some of you have joined me before on this. Today we're going to be talking about financial preparation in order to do a move or a downsize, because there are some different things you should be aware of in today's financial climate, and also if you are retired, there's a little bit of a different way we approach a house purchase, and we're going to go through that. And as I said before, normally I have Sandra Barnes. She is a mortgage broker with lots of years of industry expertise. Join me. She's taken ill suddenly, so I'm hoping she'll send me her slides so that I can get on. Otherwise, we'll just talk about some of the other things, and I won't get too deep into the lending side of things. But you can ask questions, and I can get answers for you if you have specific questions. So I can always do that. So as we started out before, this whole series is meant to help you think through planning with a purpose and create a plan for your next step that you can do. And normally I do these in person. So there I am kind of over here in the corner. And this was a group we had in Bendale a few years ago. And they joined us in person. And now we are doing these virtually. And some of you that are on here have joined me in person too. And hopefully by the end of this year, I can start to do them in person again. That would be fun. And as part of doing this, we've got some interactive tools, which I like on Zoom. I think it's a great feature. And it's a little bit of polling questions that I can pop in here to find out where you're at with different things. And I have a Valentine's Day quiz to start, just to get you used to how this works. So I'm going to pop up a little quiz, and this is a multiple choice quiz. So what is your favorite Valentine's Day treat? So you can vote on as many as you want. And then when you're finished voting, I'll give everybody about a minute to choose. I can share the results so you can see what everybody would like for Valentine's Day.
No.
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 Wine.
Wine.
Chocolates. Yeah, chocolate.
Is that all I have to do?
Right. Vote as well.
Oh, if you like it, go ahead. That's greedy.
Well, you can put it away.
Okay, a couple of more people to vote. And for some reason, it doesn't allow me to vote. You would think that it would allow the host to vote, but. somebody likes jewelry. There you go. Now, when I put up the results, you won't see who voted what. So you're going to have to take a thoughtful look at your partner and see who put what question on there. But, okay, I'm going to end and share the results. So you should be able to see that now. Can you see the results?
The chocolates.
Yes.
The chocolates are a winner. Nice dinner's a winner. Wine, a thoughtful touch. I think if you have a lot of stuff over the years, I think somebody being thoughtful is such a nice present. Jewelry and a funny card. Awesome.
What's that word?
I'm going to stop that and put that down. And then, so as we go through, I've got a couple of other questions that are more on topic, but that's kind of a fun thing to do. So again, like I mention every time, doing this prep work is going to set you on a great path moving forward. And to do this thought process now, I applaud everybody because it's just difficult for me as a realtor to meet people that are in a situation where they haven't thought through this and in a bit of a crisis mode. And it's a very emotionally charged thing to go through. So thank you for doing this today. You will appreciate the work. All right. And again, planning with your choice, not because of circumstance. So if you get a good plan in place, you can share this with your friends and your family, and you can think through it, and so that you can do it with your thoughts in mind and not their plans for you. So in the steps to this, we went through the first session of understanding why a move might be right. So we did thought through a little bit about motivation.
If you want.
And thought through a little bit about obstacles that might be in your way. And then Claire shared a bit about how to start the dealing with your stuff part, which is a big concern for a lot of people going through this. The second part is kind of going through and understanding getting your finances in order to make this happen. So developing a plan and a budget to suit your needs. So as I said, the kind of technical financial side, Sandra usually speaks to, and hopefully I'll have those slides to you, but I'm going to talk a little bit about carrying costs. And so I'm speaking a little bit more on the budgeting side of things to take a look at what properties cost, what the monthly carrying cost is for each of them, looking at condos and maintenance and all of that stuff, so that you can kind of understand moving forward what each of those things means to you on a monthly basis. The last presentation, we took a look at some of your personal motivation and obstacles that might be in your way, exploring some of the emotional needs that might happen as you go through this process. Claire gave her very, very helpful introduction to decluttering. And I took a very brief look at some home options that are out there. And next week is the really fun session where we go through properties and I take you on a virtual tour from your living room of different property options and take a look at what they're selling for and go in different areas and take a look at that. And that's always really fun. And lastly, remember the elephant. So if you're going to eat an elephant, the proverb is to eat it one bite at a time. And hopefully Claire had given you some hints and tips on where to start for tackling your elephant, which is basically your stuff. All right. So today, what we're going to talk a little bit about is evaluating whether you should rent or buy as the next step, what's involved in each of those things, and what today's rental market and purchasing market looks like. How do you decide what to do first? That's always a big discussion I have with clients when I meet them for the first time. So how do you think through that? What are monthly costs associated with each option you might have? And Sandra usually talks about a reverse mortgage, which is a stay-at-home option. I'll mention that briefly, but she's the expert in that. And then a little bit about financial institution steps. So if I get those slides, I'll share those with you. Might be a bit out of order. So first I'm going to talk about kind of the three different big options that are out there. Renting something when you sell your home, buying something after you sell your home, or staying in your own home, and what does that look like? I'm not going to address the fourth option, which would be if you sell your home and you have a cottage or something that's a 3-season, 4-season cottage that you're moving to, so you already have that set up. This is if you do not have that plan already in place. And one of the biggest decisions that you have to go through is which is going to come first. Do you find the place where you like to be so you're happy and then sell your home? Or do you sell your home first and work with the budget that gives you to find your next place? So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg. So how do you think through that process? So I would say most people would think of selling first if they're risk adverse. So that would be a financial risk. If you really want to know the money you're working with and what your home's going to get in today's market, before you go shopping, you want your budget set, then sell first and then go shopping. If you know that property prices are flat or declining and you're going to get the most money now, and then if the market's going down, you'll get a deal on the other end, then sell first. If you're buying something in a slower moving market, so you know you'll have lots of choice if you are going to sell, then sell first. Right now, the market is a very strong seller's market. So you would make, top dollar right now, but you are going to be paying top dollar for something as well. So you have to balance those two things out to find out what works best for you. But I find lots of people like to sell first, especially if they're wanting to know exactly to the penny what money they've got moving forward. So flipping the coin over, buying or renting first. If you're looking for something really specific, so through this process, some people say, hey, Sue, we've looked at a lot of properties. I'm very interested in buying something in Wilmot Creek, and I want, this style of home in this part. So unless something comes up like that, I'm not going to buy. So we'll wait for that to come up, and then we'll purchase that first and then sell. But go through and get the house ready. So if this happens, we can, make it happen quickly. Buy or rent first if you won't sell unless you find the perfect place to move to. So if you really want to make sure you're super happy with the next place, and it might take you a while because you've got something in mind and you want to explore lots of options, you need to buy and rent first, but you can do that over time and then commit to it. So if you have the time to look. Buy or rent first if you can carry 2 properties if you have to. So if you're looking for something very specific that doesn't come up very often, and you want to commit to it, you have to make sure on the other end you can continue to carry your other property without straining your finances. If you're worried about purchase prices rising quickly, then you might want to buy or rent first while they're at the lowest, if you see that certain areas are escalating. If you really need to sell your current property and it's almost ready to put on the market and you see something come up that you like, then you can probably buy it with confidence, knowing you'll be able to sell your house quickly. So if it's almost ready. And by that, I mean, you've been doing on the decluttering and you're a couple of months away from having the house as perfect as you would like it to be. We can bring people in to accelerate that. And buy or rent first if it's a seller's market. So this is the flip side of you being able to sell your house at a high price. When you're buying something, you may be in competition on the buying side of things, and you may need to submit several offers on properties before you're successful. Sometimes it doesn't happen the first time you're out, especially if there's lack of inventory on the market, which is what we are dealing with right now. So, you may have to do that a couple of times, but your current property will appreciate in value to offset any purchase price increase. So you'll be working in an area where the purchase price might go up, but your house price will go up. And likely you're buying a property that is less than your house, so your gap between the two will be more substantial as the prices go up. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay.
No.
So, does somebody have a question? No. Okay. So there are some creative solutions to this as well, because a lot of people they're worried about making the wrong decision, and they're worried about timing the market so that they're going to achieve their financial goals. And there are some creative solutions to this. And I've used all of these solutions, one or the other, with clients of mine. So you can ask for a longer or a flexible closing if you like something right away and you have to get your house ready to sell, or when you're buying something. So closings on a property can move around as long as both parties agree to it. So you may want to have a long closing when you purchase, then you sell your house right away and you're surprised, so you can adjust that and make sure that your closings match up. You may be able to sell, then rent back short term. As a matter of fact, I did this last week. And I've done this before. So what happened was my sellers they have a pre-construction home that's not ready till the spring, but they wanted to take advantage of the hot market right now. So they have sold it to somebody where they are closing in April, but they're renting it back from the buyers until their house is ready in June. And so this is a creative solution to bridge the gap, and they took advantage of the hot market that way. I've also done it where my sellers hadn't found anything to buy yet, but the buyers needed a short closing because the financing that they had an expiry date and they needed to close within that. So we rented it back until they were able to find a property to buy. So you can use that to your advantage in a strong market. You may be able to arrange bridge financing if closing dates don't match up. So when you are purchasing something, if you sell your home and you need to carry the two properties overlapping, it's called bridge financing. Now, technically, it's only from a mortgage on one end to a mortgage on the other end. And in most cases, my assumption is if you're buying something, your house is going to be worth more than what you're buying, so you won't need to have a mortgage. So you would arrange an equity loan, a short-term equity loan to be able to carry both properties if the closing dates don't match up. And most banks are very used to doing that sort of thing. So that would mean if you have to close in May, but your house is sold and the people don't want it till the end of June, you would arrange a month of overlap with a loan on that. You need to have a firm sale on your home to be able to do that, because you need to show the bank that you've actually sold it and you're going to get the money. Right. Oh, the rent back. Okay, so the short-term occupancy stay is the same thing as a rent back. There's also another variation to this, is that if you're buying a property where it's gone through probate, probate's taking a long time in Ontario right now, but the property might be vacant. Maybe if you find something that you like, but because of probate, you have to wait to get a firm closing date because they need the probate certificate, you can arrange to rent it if it's a vacant property. They probably wouldn't allow you to do renovations in it, but you may be able to occupy it and be able to make your moving dates change. And the last one, which is something I did for somebody who did not want to buy a condo but wanted to move out of her house, is we arranged from the owner who had the condo for sale to rent it to her instead of selling it to her. And they were very open to that, and she liked the condo, and we were able to do that instead of having her purchase it because she didn't really want to purchase a property. So there's lots of creative solutions out there to bridging the gap. You don't have to be nervous or worried about this. There's always a way we can make it happen to make it beneficial for you as, you know, the financial end and as a realtor. And then there's probably more creative stuff, but this is great about this business, is I'm learning new things every week. Okay, so I'm going to just pop in and go back to my email and see if, no, I don't have the slides. Okay. So were there any questions about that? No?
No.
Okay.
I had a question, Sue.
Yep.
It's Darlene.
Yep.
Do you usually work with the same agent in the buy and the sell? Is that not a good way to go?
Oh, that's a really good question. So if I'm selling somebody's house, I usually help them buy something because they tend to want to deal with the same person. You get used to, talking to each other,
Yeah.
and you get a shorthand, et cetera, et cetera. What the other flip side is if I'm selling a house, usually the buyers of that house don't come in through me. We can do it, but I prefer not to because I've, got an established relationship with a seller. But yeah, I typically do the purchase and the sale. Once in a while I've done it separately, but most of the time you kind of get a relationship going with somebody in a shorthand, and that's the way kind of it works out.
So if you're choosing someone, I would think it would be important to look at their knowledge of what's available as well as how to sell your property.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I was going to pull Sandra in. I don't have her slides. One of the things that I wanted to mention that I feel is important in the financial pre-planning is that if you are not employed, it is difficult to get a mortgage for a property on the other end because the banks are very straightforward about their lending process and they're very think inside the box. And if you need a mortgage and you don't have employment income because you're retired, you have to do the lending another way. But the one thing you need to understand with all of this is you have to have some cash for a deposit. And I'm not sure when everybody was in the real estate market a long time ago, but now we're asking for quite significant deposits when we purchase something, and it is about 5%. So if you have money that is either tied up in your house or tied up in investments, you have to be able to look to have that money available should you find something that you would like to buy. If you're going to rent, you would need to have first and last month's rent, which is significantly less, but not everybody has $40,000 or $50,000 sitting around that they can put in as a deposit on a property. And that
Sue, if
deposit,
I can, in
Yep.
terms of your comment about it being difficult to get mortgages, I found going through a traditional bank after the death of my husband impossible, and I ended up with a mortgage broker. It cost me about 2% in terms of interest, but
Yeah.
it was the only way I could do it.
was the only way you could do it. Yeah. Yeah.
And this was a bank that had been handling my business for more than 30 years.
Yes. How long ago was this?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. Okay. So that's a recent.
Yeah, it's very recent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bear the scars.
Yes. Yeah. That's too bad. And, Sandra talks about a friend who had a line of credit in her talk, and her credit line got called when her husband passed away, and the bank just whatever and put her in a bad situation. So all of this financial pre-planning is very important to go through to understand how the banks look at things in today's climate. So, but you do need to have that, and that is quite a large amount of money because property values are so high. If you move and say you're moving out of Toronto and you're moving to a more rural area, the deposits they require are less, but it's quite a chunk of money, and a lot of times people don't have it available. And when you're buying a property, they ask for that money 24 hours after you negotiate the purchase of that property. So if you have a bank account without a traditional brick and mortar outlet like ING or Tangerine, you have to be able to access that money within 24 hours to put the deposit down. So
Can I
that's
just ask the lady that was just talking? I didn't hear very clearly, but did she say she had to go to a mortgage broker?
yes.
Yeah, rather than the
Yes,
bank.
I did. It was my only option.
Yeah.
Isn't that awful? That's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, the lenders like Sandra's a mortgage broker, so she has the ability to go to B lenders,
Yeah.
right, or private lenders and pull those resources in, where the bank is a very cookie cutter experience.
Yeah.
The other thing with a mortgage broker versus a bank is the bank's mortgage people work for the bank. Sandra works for you, so she gets
Yeah.
paid by the banks, but the service attitude is different working with Sandra.
Yeah.
Okay, poll number 2. I'm going to bring up the next poll. Okay, so having kind of listened to that, I'm just going to ask you, does this, start some thinking in your mind of how you would approach it to have the best outcome for you? So this is the kind of chicken and egg. Do you have a second property you're thinking of moving to? Sell, then rent, sell, then buy with the proceeds, buy first because I want something special and then sell, not sure, need more information. Okay, covered everything here.
My answer doesn't fit. I have rented an apartment and I'm now desperately decluttering so I can put my house up for sale soon.
Yeah. Yeah. So you already have a second, you've already got that in place then.
Yes, I get the apartment in May.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm just desperate.
So you have
for
a
my
second
house.
property you're already moving to. Like some people have a cottage and they sell and move to a cottage. You've already set that up. So I would say that's number 1, that you're renting. So you already have that in place. That's good. That helps focus your efforts, by the way, when you make these decisions. And it makes a lot of the other steps that come after easier to think through.
I'm also finding that it's making it easier for my adult children to accept that the family home is going. They are having a hard time letting go,
Yes.
and knowing that there's a drop dead date. Basically, they're becoming more accepting.
They're becoming more accepting of it. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it works the opposite way. Sometimes it's the adult children that are worried about, a health or somebody living alone because they're not around to help that stimulate the process. So, but it's a lot of emotions, whatever way you look at it. Okay, so let's see where we're at here. I'm going to share that. Okay, so lots of people would like to buy first and sell. Great. So anybody who said that, next week you'll love, because we're going to go and take a look at a bunch of properties. You can sit back with your tea and your coffee or your wine. I'm not judging, and we'll spend an hour taking a look at some really interesting properties. Okay. So I'm stopping sharing that. Okay. So normally I would bring Sandra in here. I don't have her slides yet. So what I can do, if you're interested in her slides, is when I get them, I can email them out. And then you can have that information to look at, because she's got some good information there and I don't have to keep it in my brain because I know I can rely on her. But what we're going to do now is to take a look at what the monthly costs might be associated with each of the different options. And so I've got little doors here to kind of guide me through what I'm talking about. So talking about rentals first, because lots of people don't want to own another property after they unlock the equity in their home. They feel better off suited doing a rental. And there's several different choices of rentals in this market. And I'm talking really the GTA. There may be other options outside the GTA. So one is a private rental. So that would be a home that's owned or condo owned by somebody else, and you're just renting it directly from them. The second would be a senior lifestyle rental. So these would be a luxury type apartment that's run and developed by one of the senior developers. So like a Rivera or a Chartwell or an Amica. There are retirement residences. My mom's in an Amica in Swan Lake. We're not going to talk about that, but they provide her, housing and her food and everything like that. So her meals are taken care of. There is cultural housing that is for seniors out there that is like the Amamji and some other, cultural based housing that it's open to other people now, but it started out for that particular community. And assisted seniors housing and faith-based senior housing, those all are generally for people who need some subsidies and they have quite long waiting lists. And there's also regular apartment rentals. So there's lots of apartments around as well. But they would be just, you know, everybody in the apartment. Okay, so, and I'm going to focus more on things that I feel are where I think that downsizing people are comfortable. So what's involved in renting from somebody? So your monthly rent, of course. If you're renting a condo, your utilities will be extra. Some or all, depending on the building, because if you are renting a condo, the maintenance fees get absorbed by the landlord, and they will include some of the utilities. So generally, whatever's not included in that maintenance fee, you would have your own utilities account set up. It's typically hydro, but it could be more. I will tell you, the older buildings, generally the utilities are covered in the maintenance fees. And then when Bob Ray came around in the late 70s, he started to have the buildings, the condo buildings, detach their utilities from the maintenance fees so that people would be more energy efficient. And so the newer buildings, the utilities are metered separately. Downtown, you may pay extra for parking because not all the condos downtown have one parking spot per unit. So if you decide that that's a good move for you, that's something that you have to budget for perhaps. And then once you lock into a lease, you're generally in a year, and then it moves to a month to month after a year. And after a year, the government says to landlords, you can increase the rent, but they give you a specific amount, and it's geared to the cost of living index. This year, they are not allowed to raise the rent because of COVID. They put some extra guidelines in increased for that, and you couldn't increase the rent last year or this year. But generally, it's 1 to 2%.
So when you're looking at a rental property, how do you figure out what the cost is in relation to the value of the property? Or are those two things not connected? Like how much does it usually cost to rent something?
I'm going to get into that. Thank you. I'm going to show you in a minute. Yeah. And that's a really good question, because in a lot of cases, if you can pay for a condo up front, your monthly carrying costs may be way less than renting, like half.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, so we'll get into that. I put some rental prices out, and apartment rentals might be slightly less, but they're generally similar to market value rent, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, in different neighborhoods. And a senior luxury place run by Rivera and everything, they're more expensive, $1,000 more expensive a month.
And they include more though, don't they?
No,
Meals? No,
not with meals. They do include a few things. I'll tell you a little bit about that. So what's the difference between these different options, practically speaking? So if you rent privately, you have lots of choice. Okay, there's lots of people that own a condo with using it as an income property, and they rent it out to people. And some of them may be in lifestyle communities. So for instance, Swan Lake in Markham is a gated community that is geared to retired people, or Masaryk Town, which is a life lease, which is geared to 55 and over, do offer rentals in them once in a while. The private owners are allowed to rent those out. So you may find some available in what we call lifestyle communities. And you get lots of choice with this because there's lots of people who do this. And it's worry-free if you're in a condo because you can lock your door and go. Renting privately tends to get you better amenities because an apartment building may not have ensuite laundry. You know, the landlords may not have updated the granite counters or new dishwasher, etc. So you may get better amenities and better finishes than in an apartment building. And of course, if you're renting privately from somebody who's in a condo building, you have full access. If they've got a swimming pool or a gym, that's all yours to use too. And those kind of amenities aren't in rental buildings usually. it allows you to unlock your equity in your house, and you are protected very strongly by the Ontario Residential Tenancy Act. So you have lots of rights, which I won't get into now, but as a renter, you have lots of rights. The downside to renting it privately is if the owner decides to sell it and you need to leave because the new owners don't want to rent to you or they want to move in, you don't have the security to stay there. You're protected under a yearly lease, but once it goes month to month, if they choose to sell, you will have to find another place to move to. If you are in an apartment building, they can't kick you out unless you, I don't know, break the law or don't pay your rent for months on time. So that's the difference, is that security. So what does it cost to rent? So here's what I find is that people moving from a house like 900 square feet or more condo, that feels not tiny to them. So this is based on 1,000 to 1,100 square feet rental rates in different areas of Toronto. So this is what it would cost you plus utilities right now. So you can see downtown, it's close to $3,000. The rents downtown have gone down, but they're going to start to go up again. Midtown is also expensive. The West End is expensive. Scarborough is still pretty cheap compared to the rest of the place. Even Durham, because there's fewer condos, the prices still tend to be a little higher than Scarborough. I would say as you got farther away from the city core, you probably would find a little bit less, but you're still probably going to be paying similar rents to these up to Newmarket and over to you know, Oakville and over to Curtis, that sort of thing.
So these are when you're renting from an owner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's an average.
More or less when you're renting in a rental apartment?
Probably a little less, but not a huge amount less.
And then there's many downsides to that too.
And then there's
Okay.
some downsides. Yeah, there's some downsides to that. Now they are building new buildings. So somebody that I think Carol, are you on this call? You asked me about the buildings at Bailey. And so there's rental buildings that got built at Bailey and Harwood, if you're familiar with that area in Ajax. And there's 2 towers there that look like condos, and they are rental buildings. And they're very nice inside, but they're in this price range. The downside to that is they do not have ensuite laundry, but they have everything else that a condo would have in them. But they weren't super cheap. I have the prices. I didn't bring them with me, but they're not super cheap. They're in this price range still, but they're very nice and they're new. And Carol, I hope you got that email. I sent you the price list for that a while back. If you didn't, let me know and I'll send it again. So how do you go about renting something privately? So I do rentals. I help people with rentals. Not all agents do, for different reasons. But this is the way logistically it works. So you would go and take a look at properties that you like. When you see a property, you'll know how much they're asking for the rent, and you should be able to get an idea of the utility cost per month. So those would be your carrying costs. The landlords look for a full rental application, and they look for some pretty significant documentation now. I think gone are the days if you looked professional, you could walk in and just sign a lease on the spot, because it's unfortunate, but there are a lot of people that will take advantage of landlords, and landlords are quite careful. So they would like to see a full credit report, references, and financials. And you know, in most cases, people are renting, they have jobs, so you would have to provide some sort of other proof of income so that they know that you are you know, financially solvent enough to pay the rent every month. And in some cases, when I've gone in with people that are renting after, I just say, look, I helped them sell their house, and you know, so they're financially solid, and that helps. But landlords can be quite particular about the documentation that they require. And then you sign a lease, and the lease will be a year commitment. And then they require first and last month rent as a deposit. And that first and last month would be whether you're renting privately through a realtor or an apartment building, they all want first and last month's rent.
Mhm.
The difference with doing it through a realtor is that the first and last month's rent gets held at our brokerage, and then you pay the ongoing rent directly to the landlord. So we take care of that first and last. That's the only difference. Okay. Any questions about that?
No,
No. Pretty straightforward. If we go in to take a look at seniors' lifestyles, they're covered a little differently according to the government. And the difference practically for you living there is that there's a support system there. So this building that I'm showing you is Westney Gardens, which is in Ajax. And it's a brand new apartment building that is full of independent suites. So you do not get your meals provided or go to a dining room like you would in a regular retirement home. You have a full kitchen and you have ensuite laundry. You can see the little floor plan there.
mhm,
But the main floor does have some, like they've got a little cafe. So if you wanted your meals, you could arrange to have some meals catered. You could have them there. But it's not a full dining room. It's a pub and everything. So they've got some specialized amenities. There's a social network. So they've got, a hairdressing salon. They have nurses come in. So that sort of thing is on site. They have a bus that comes and picks you up if you want to go grocery shopping once a week and takes you shopping. You get the stability that when you're renting in these kind of places, you never have to leave because it's like renting in an apartment building. It's not privately owned suites. This one is run by Rivera. And then you have flexibility for the future because if you're part of that kind of network, then they probably can help you transition into a retirement home should you need more services down the road. And this one is the whole building. Whoops, somebody's asking a question here. Oh, somebody is going to jump off. Okay. So this is all suites that are independent. In lots of the retirement homes now, when they're doing an expansion, they'll build a 1 floor or 2 floors of these independent suites. So if you're familiar with the new Guildwood Chartwell that's going in, their top floor is all independent suites. And then the bottom floors are all, you go to a dining room and have a communal meal. So there's more of these options being built right now, which is good. It is more expensive because it's a lifestyle choice. So you're probably spending over $3,000 a month and it doesn't include your food. You have to still cook your own meals and do your own laundry, etc. Now there are some that will include maybe some cleaning a couple of times a month in there as part of their amenities package. There is a Don Mills Apartments that's connected to Rivera across from the shops of Don Mills. And they have a nice security feature in there. So you have your own apartment and they have a laundry room on each floor. So you have a communal laundry room, but you don't have to go to a basement or anything to do your laundry. It's shared, but every day they have a little card. When you're in a hotel, you put a do not disturb card on your door. They check the residents by having you put that card out at night, and then they have somebody go around and make sure it's taken down by a certain time in the morning. Otherwise, they check on you. So there's some security features built into that particular one. And I think they come in and clean once a week or a couple of times a month. So you do get a few extra benefits.
Now, in that particular instance, so if you then needed more nursing care, would you automatically be in line for their secondary care?
Yeah, in that case, in the Don Mills Apartments, I know a bit more about that because I have a client that moved there and I took some tours. So it's connected physically to a Rivera retirement home. So the 2 apartments are on Don Mills and Rivera is on the Don Way behind. And you can do it in a staggered manner. So if you wanted to say, take your meals at the retirement residence at the back, which is connected, you could do that. You could take some or all of your meals there, and then you would probably get first preference for suites should you need more service.
I was thinking mainly if you go into one of these retirement homes and then you need more assistance, then you're literally having to move again.
Yeah, You do, because you would probably move from a suite, like an independent suite, to one that's got no kitchen in it.
And do you have to line up? Like, is there a waiting list or can you automatically go to one?
You have to kind of talk to them. You get on a waiting list. Like, it depends. Usually there's vacancies. It depends whether you want a choice of suites. That would be,
Oh,
if you say,
okay,
I want a 2-bedroom and there's not a lot of 2-bedrooms, that's kind of luck of the draw.
okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
Um, so we're talking about $3,000 and up, depending on services. Generally, they have a surcharge. So if there's 2 people in a 2-bedroom, it's not going to be double, but there'll be a surcharge for the second person. And one of the big differences is the way it is dealt with, in that when you view properties and you submit a rental application, because they are a little different than a normal rental, they only ask for 1 month's deposit in it. And sometimes they only ask for $500 deposit. So they're not going to ask you for first and last month's rent, but they quite often have to have a health check as part of it. So they want to know when you're moving in that you are healthy enough to live independently. So they have a nurse that would give you, have an interview process for that. Okay, whereas in a regular apartment, you just rent it. Okay, any questions around that?
No.
No, and these ones filled up, like the one on Westney Road, they filled up. So people that are in there, that just went on the market last year. There may be a waiting list to get in there for people to move out. So you just put your name on a wait list and they call the wait list. Whereas in an apartment building, I don't know, I don't know how they are for the wait list, managing a wait list and everything like that. Sometimes I've heard that you have to bug them. Sometimes they're not too service oriented that way, but these people certainly are service oriented with making sure they manage their wait lists. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to go into a couple of other property ownerships now, because we're getting towards the end. So we'll talk about freehold, condominium, life lease, and land lease, and what those cost per month. So these are when you're purchasing something. So if you want to downsize from a big house to a bungalow, in Toronto, the minimum price that you are going to be going into the market right now is $900,000, and it's rapidly increasing depending on the area. So the prices right now are quite high in Toronto. The standard steps to buying a freehold property right now would be to go and take a look at properties, to submit an offer. You would likely be in competition with a few other buyers now. And then you would have to have a deposit available. And that is, 5% deposit on a $900,000 house is $45,000, just to give you an idea of that money that you would have to have available. Okay. And then there's some costs on closing that are associated with both freeholds and with condominiums when you're purchasing. So you obviously have to pay off the price when you take possession of it. And in Toronto and all of Ontario, there's land transfer tax, which may not have been in place when you last purchased a property. So that is a closing cost. There's an Ontario tax, and then there's a surcharge in Toronto, which doubles it. So it's approximately 2.5% of the purchase price in Toronto, in the city boundaries, and about 1.3% of the purchase price outside Toronto. So if you were in Markham or Durham or Mississauga, any place like that. And that's a one-time closing cost that gets adjusted, but you have to budget for that. And a lawyer, and it's a sliding scale. So when I say approximately, it's a sliding scale based on your purchase price. And then the lawyer is about $2,000. And if you're purchasing, there's no realtor fees. Okay, I get paid by the sellers when I'm helping people purchase. And monthly, you would have, just like you have in your house now, your property tax, your utilities, and your ongoing maintenance, and whatever insurance you choose to carry on it. On a rental, you'll be required to carry insurance, by the way. you would have to have contents insurance and probably some liability depending on what the landlord asks you to do. So there will be some insurance. Okay, so give you an idea of land transfer tax. If you were going to purchase a $900,000 property, that would be $28,000 in Toronto. So that's a lot of money you have to have for closing. And outside Toronto, it would be about half of that. I'm not suggesting you buy a $900,000 property. I'm just using this as an example. Before you go, she's not speaking my language. So then we get into condominiums, and we talked a little bit about this, and we'll explore this next week, that there's lots of different styles of condominiums out there. They can range from this style, which is a house style condominium, to a more traditional apartment style condominium. And there's some things in between too. So the average condo price in Toronto, that would be 2-bedroom and 2-bathroom, that would be over 1,000 square feet, is $710,000. That would be, there's some over $1 million, so I just took under $1 million. But it's a huge range. You can pay anywhere from a little over $400,000 for a 2-bedroom condo that's this big to up to $985,000. So don't think you're going to have to spend that. It's just a matter of knowing that there's a huge range of prices and options, which should get you very excited because you have lots of choice.
Is that in a Toronto market?
That's in Toronto, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah. And maintenance fees range between $450 to $800 a month. Again, this is on average. And the maintenance fees that you pay on a condo is priced on your square footage of ownership. So it's approximately 65 cents a square foot. So because it's geared to square footage, the more you own, the larger you own, the more your maintenance will be. And included in that would be considered if you have a parking spot. If you had 2 parking spots, you'd pay, extra maintenance fee because you own 2 instead of 1. A storage locker costs you a little bit more per month. And each condo development has different things included in their maintenance fees. And next week, when we go through the listings and take a look at that, we can get into the details of each one so you get a good idea.
Okay.
So steps to buying a condo: you view properties, you submit an offer. Depending on the building, again, you may be in competition. It requires a 5% deposit. But the one thing you always get to do with a condominium is review their financial documentation to make sure that the condo is well run. And that means they're not in debt. There's no special assessments that are coming up. And I don't do that. You don't do it. A lawyer does that. Okay, they know what to look for. They know to make sure to look for there's no upcoming repairs that they don't have the money in the reserve, or a lawsuit that they have to pay out, etc. And most condo buildings are fine. But a lawyer, you need a lawyer's eyes on it to see. The closing costs involved in a condo are the balance of the purchase price, the land transfer tax that we talked about before. Again, a lawyer is still about $2,000, and there's no realtor fees involved in a purchase. And your ongoing monthly costs would be about $700 a month for the condo maintenance. Maybe your utilities to max out to around $150, and an average property tax, depending on where you are, at $229. So you can see that you're probably under $1,500, which is significantly less than a rental. And when I'm looking at condos with people, what I do is I call the maintenance, the utilities, and the property tax your hard costs, because you cannot negotiate that. It is what it is. So we try and compare them based on rentals by looking at the hard costs. Does that make sense? Does that help answer the question of the rentals and the prices and how they're related and what that means to you?
Yes.
I was just talking to somebody a friend whose condo maintenance even includes their property taxes.
We're going to get to that in a sec. It's not a condo, that's why.
Oh, okay.
So in a condo, you are buying whatever is inside the walls. So part of your maintenance fees covers the maintenance of whatever you're shared, which is the roof, the windows, the doors, the parking garage, all of that stuff, the amenities, the pool, the gym, whatever's included in it. So you share in those common element costs. Okay, so what your friend may be in is either a life lease or a land lease, Arlene, because those ones don't have the property taxes are treated differently.
She lives in Skymark,
Then she's paying property taxes outside that.
is she?
So a life lease and a land lease, you are buying the right to occupy a unit. So you're not buying the physical property, but your lifestyle is exactly the same as if you had the physical property. You have the exclusive right to live there until you sell it.
Tony,
Okay. And these are properties like
Isn't
the
it-
top one here is
I just-
the top one here is Anna Russell Way in Markham, which is a life lease property. And then the bottom one is Wilmot Creek, which is a land lease property. So you live in the house, but you lease the land.
Mhm.
Right? You buy and sell these the same way you would a regular property. It's just the ownership structure is a little different. You submit an offer, the paperwork on these is a little different. You do a deposit and you get a lawyer to review the documentation for whatever development that you're looking in to make sure that everything is run well. So the difference with this is because you don't actually own the real property, and the real property is the legal term for owning, you know, a house and land and things like that. Because you're just really buying interest into it to live there. You don't have land transfer tax. And that's the biggest difference. There's no land transfer tax. And in some cases on these, you do pay property tax because the land has property tax on it from the corporation standpoint. Sometimes that's included in the maintenance and sometimes it's not. It depends on the development. You still have a lawyer to look at it, so there's a lawyer fee. You still pay the balance of the purchase price. And these properties do have monthly maintenance fees associated with them. Again, like a condo, depending on the development, they may include some utilities or they may include some property tax. Each one is different and you get to look at that. And then some life leases or land leases have conditions on reselling. Quite often it's some of the sales profit goes back into the corporation that runs it because they are generally not for profit. The benefit to you is they cost less than a traditional condo because the ownership structure means that fewer people buy these, and they generally are geared to an age and can restrict age. So it's for retired people and they cost less. Okay, so does that make sense? So Skymark's a traditional condo. She'll pay property tax even if she's maybe not aware of it. She does. Okay.
I may be mistaken, and maybe it's utilities that.
Her utilities are probably all included in that because that's an older building. Skymark's,
Yes.
yeah, I'm sure it's got all the
Okay.
utilities included in there. So she just pays her maintenance fee and property tax. It's a lovely building, by the way. They have huge condos in there.
Yeah, well, she has a lovely income too.
Oh yeah. And then the last choice would be to stay in your own home, and the monthly costs that you would have to look at as you age in place would be home care renovations that you might need, say moving laundry to a main floor to make it more convenient for you, property care that you would have for snow removal and landscaping. And sometimes you can use a reverse mortgage, which Sandra would talk about normally, to help you unlock equity in your home while you can stay in your home. And a reverse mortgage, you don't pay that back until you go to sell. And so you can take a percentage of the equity in your home, and that is geared to the value of your property and your age. And there's some calculations done there. So that's what you call a chip mortgage. You see Kurt Browning's advertising it right now. I saw on TV, or Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
That's the ads for that. Okay. Okay. So we're getting towards the end. So I'm going to bring up a new poll. Maybe the last one. Okay. So I talked a little bit about properties that might be available to you. And I'm just curious now that you've heard about them, what is the most appealing to you?
Do we have to vote for just one?
I can't remember.
It's okay.
No, I think this is a one, just, yeah, you can have different ideas in your head. I think I didn't set this up as a multiple choice.
Okay.
I don't see what you see on your end, whether you can tell whether it's multiple choice. I just don't remember what I did.
No, I just asked which appeals to
Okay,
you
yeah.
most. So I guess that's one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this will help me with the properties that I show you next week. That's one of the reasons why I asked this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then next, we're going to go to where you would like to see those properties.
Mhm.
Good. Okay. Great. Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to end that, and I'm going to share the results. All right. So I'm just going to take a couple of notes because this information disappears after I sign off. So not an apartment, but a condo. Condo ex lease. Nice condos. And less rental. I'll see if I can pull up some rentals for you next week that are private. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, and I'll get rid of that. And then the last poll I have is kind of what area you might be interested in. Last time we did the virtual tour, I concentrated on the Scarborough area. So I'm open to pulling up properties. I can maybe take you through 10 of them through, and we can go on tours, and I am going to stop that, see where you guys would like to be. So I think you can do multiple choice here. So you'd still like to see Scarborough because that's maybe where you live, like to stay in the neighborhood, downtown, Durham, which would probably take you as far as Oshawa, York, so north, Etobicoke, or Mississauga.
Is there an opportunity to go west of Scarborough, west of downtown?
Yeah, did you have anything specific in mind?
Maybe in Mississauga? Or
Yep,
Burlington?
got that on there at the bottom.
Oh, that's included with York. Okay.
No, at the bottom. The last one says Mississauga.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I just don't want to live downtown.
Yeah,
And Mississauga would be in the area where the land transfer was less.
yes.
Yeah.
Your property taxes are higher, though. I say it does balance out. Your property taxes in the city
are
of
they?
Toronto are lower. The mill rate's lower than outside, but
Oh, okay.
okay. All right.
Do you have anything in the Midtown area?
I can. I didn't put it on the list. So when you say Midtown, did you have an area in mind?
Well, you know, like Young and Eglinton, that kind of area.
Sure. Put in some of those. All right. And I'm going to put Mississauga. Were you interested in Arlene, Etobicoke and Mississauga, or just Mississauga?
Oh, well, Etobicoke is within Toronto, isn't it?
Yeah, so you wanted to see what was out west of that.
Outside of Toronto, yes.
Okay, so I will try and do a variety next week. We'll be on a road show all over the place then.
Yeah. I'd even go as far as Burlington.
Yeah, I don't know the buildings enough to be able to pull those. I would
Oh,
probably say,
no, that's okay.
yeah.
I don't want to go so far that my kids wouldn't come and visit me.
Yeah, I actually have people that I know that downsized to the Burlington area with a beautiful place that is got lake views. I'll find out from them where that is because I
Mhm.
didn't help them with that. So they found it on their own. Okay, so
They think it's a long trip just to come to Scarborough, so they'd never come to Durham.
oh, where are they coming from?
They both live downtown.
Oh, downtown. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
Young and Eglinton and Young
okay.
and there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. So I am going to share that with you. So I wrote down Mississauga, even though you didn't vote on it. I wrote that down.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so that's it. So sorry Sandra couldn't join us, but Here's her number if you have any specific financial questions, or you can email me and I can set you up with Sandra's information. Next week, we're going to be doing the virtual property tour from 1 to 2. And then the last week, we're going to talk about doing renovations, preparing your home for sale, what today's buyers like in today's market, and some home staging secrets. Okay, anybody have any questions before I let you go?
If I have a friend who I think would like to join us, what information do I give her or what does she do?
Oh, if you have her email or phone number, just send it to me and I will give her a call and make sure I have her email, and then I'll just put her on the invite list.
Oh, okay. I'll check with her first.
Yeah, talk with her first before I go scaring her. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. And welcome to the new people that joined us for the first time today. If you have any questions, here's my cell phone number. You can always give me a call, or you will have my email from the invite.
I think
you
it
very
gets better each week.
Thanks.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.